The Buffalo Bills are rolling into town this weekend, and with joint practices starting tomorrow, there's a ton of buzz surrounding what's going down in Chicago. This isn't just another week of training camp. This is one of those moments where things start to get real. It's time to evaluate, compete, and see how this young Bears squad stacks up against one of the premier teams in the league. It's a big opportunity, especially for guys fighting for roster spots, trying to prove they belong, and for the coaching staff to get some real answers before Sunday's preseason showdown. Let's start with the biggest question hanging over the Bears right now, the battle at left tackle. This has become one of the most chaotic, yet fascinating position battles in camp. Just when it seemed like a two-man race, Theo Benedict, yes, the Canadian prospect that almost nobody saw coming, has suddenly entered the conversation. What started as a simple rotation with Braxton Jones and Aussie Trappill has now turned into something much more layered. Benedict getting first-team reps in joint practice is not just a fluke. It's a message. The coaching staff is clearly trying to shake things up and see who's really hungry to take this job. Now, Jones and Benedict splitting reps with the ones is telling. It says that this coaching staff is still searching. They're not satisfied. Nobody has run away with the job. Not Braxton, not Trappill, and with Kieran Amagashi just now returning from injury and still working with the third team, his window may be closing quickly unless he makes a major move in these next few sessions. And Trappill, while he's still in the mix, is also being moved around to right tackle with the second team. That sounds a lot like a contingency plan in case he ends up being the swing tackle instead of the starter, which, honestly, might be where he fits best if he doesn't separate himself soon. But back to Benedict for a moment. This is a guy who, quietly, has been improving every single week. He's not flashy. He's not a big name. But he's earned his reps the hard way. And now, suddenly, the Canadian Eagle might just be in this fight for real. The Bears are sending a clear message to the entire group. No one is safe. If you're not stepping up, someone else will. And as we hit the midpoint of camp and approach the second preseason game, this rotation during the joint practice with Buffalo could be the clearest sign yet of who's trending up and who's not. Speaking of trending up or down, let's talk quarterbacks. Specifically, how does Caleb Williams look going up against one of the NFL's elite in Josh Allen? Now, to be clear, no one should expect Caleb to outplay Allen in these sessions. That's not the point. Josh Allen is at the top of his game. He's a former MVP. He's led the Bills to multiple playoff wins, an AFC title game appearance, and he's firmly entrenched as one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the entire league. If not for the Mahomes machine in Kansas City, he might already have a Super Bowl ring. The guy is legit. But what's interesting here is the measuring stick. Caleb Williams doesn't need to be Josh Allen right now, but it's a great opportunity for him to stand on the same field, in the same competitive environment, and just go compete. Let's see the command. Let's see how he handles the tempo. Let's see what his reads look like when the bullets start flying a little faster against a top-tier defense. And let's not forget, Josh Allen didn't light the league on fire in his first 2 seasons either. In fact, it wasn't until his 3rd year that people really started to believe in his development. Before that, he had all the tools, but the decision-making was shaky and his accuracy was flat-out inconsistent. Caleb, on the other hand, enters the league with a bit more polish. He's already shown a knack for playmaking, a high football IQ, and the type of presence you want from a franchise quarterback. That said, there's still a long road ahead. He's going to take his lumps. But this joint practice against Buffalo gives him a chance to stack up and test his game against one of the best. That's invaluable, not just for him, but for the coaching staff too. They'll get a clearer picture of where he's at, what's working, what needs refining, and how he responds under pressure when the looks get complicated and the defense disguises things a little better than your typical camp rep. And listen, if you're a Bears fan, you want to see that fire. You want to see Caleb take some chances, learn from his mistakes, and walk off that field knowing he belongs. That's how progress is made. Not by throwing perfect passes every rep, but by figuring it out, adjusting, and growing. These are the reps that will shape his rookie season more than anything. Now, let's flip the script to the other side of the ball. The cornerback situation is suddenly in the spotlight, and not necessarily for the best reasons. With Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon both sidelined, The Bears are missing their top two guys in the secondary. And when you're going up against a team like the Bills, who might not have that one superstar receiver, but definitely have a ton of quality options, that's a big deal. This is a deep and versatile receiving core. Keon Coleman is a physical matchup nightmare. Khalil Shakir is crafty in the slot. You've got Josh Palmer, Curtis Samuel, Elijah Moore, a variety of styles, all capable of making plays. And don't even get started on the tight ends. Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox can absolutely stretch a defense. That's where the spotlight now shifts to players like Tariq Stevenson, Terrell Smith, Josh Blackwell, and even a guy like Nan Wright, who's quietly having a strong camp. With the top two corners out, these guys have a golden opportunity to show they belong, maybe even earn a more prominent role in the regular season rotation. Stevenson, in particular, is probably the frontrunner to lock down that CB2 spot opposite Jalen Johnson. But this week will tell us a lot. How do they handle Buffalo's tempo? Can they hold up in man coverage? Are they sound in their zone drops? The coaching staff will be watching every snap closely. This is one of those weeks where guys can rise or fall, depending on how they respond. Let's talk wide receivers for a second, because one name that hasn't been popping as much as expected is DJ Moore. And look, no one's panicking. This guy is a known commodity. You don't just forget how to be a playmaker overnight. But it's been a pretty quiet camp so far. Aside from a few gadget looks out of the backfield, DJ hasn't made a ton of noise in the traditional passing game. On Wednesday, he had a golden opportunity on a beautiful ball from Caleb over the middle, and he dropped it. A pass that should have gone for 25 yards or more. Again, not the end of the world, but when you're making $27 million a year, the expectation is that you're one of the best players on the field, especially in competitive settings like this. Meanwhile, other guys are stepping up. Rome Odunze has quickly become one of Caleb's go-to targets. That connection is growing fast. Zaccheaus is catching everything. Even Carlson Loveland and Luther Burden are getting more attention in camp. That's not a bad thing. You want depth. You want competition. But it does raise a fair question. When is DJ Moore going to remind everybody who he is? This joint practice would be the perfect time. Go make 5 or 6 plays. This is where guys like Jervin Dexter and Dio Ingbo need to take a step forward. Last week, Dio Ingbo struggled to set the edge, giving up a couple big runs. That can't happen again. Andrew Billings was a major stabilizer last year, and when he went down, things unraveled. So this front seven needs to start locking in. Run fits, discipline, shedding blocks. It's the dirty work that wins games. And don't forget about the linebackers. TJ Tmain, Sue, and Ruben Hippolyte all have a shot to carve out a role. Hippolyte had a solid preseason opener. Let's see if he can stack those performances, especially with the starters expected to get some action on Sunday night. And speaking of starters, yes, they will play in the preseason game. How much? That's still unclear, but it changes the dynamics of this joint practice. Last week, since the starters were held out of the game, the joint practice was essentially the full speed, high-rep work for the first-team units. This week, with them expected to take the field on Sunday, the coaching staff might ease off the gas just a little. That could mean more looks for the 2s and 3s during the session, and maybe a bit more rotation to keep legs fresh. That's not a bad thing. It gives more guys a chance to show what they can do. But it also means that the time the starters do get needs to be crisp, focused, and intense. This isn't just another day at camp. This is a legit opportunity to measure yourself against one of the most physical, talented, and well-coached teams in the league. For the Bears, a team trying to claw its way back to relevance. These are the kinds of practices that can set the tone for the rest of the season. And while the spotlight naturally gravitates toward the quarterbacks and the starting battles, the real meat of these joint practices is often found in the margins, in the trenches, in the rotational reps, in the back half of the depth chart. That's where rosters are shaped. That's where surprise names emerge. And for a team like the Bears, still trying to establish its identity under this coaching regime, every rep matters. There are still positional battles far from settled. Rotational spots up for grabs. Special teams units looking for consistency. And a front office carefully watching to see who fits the mold, not just athletically, but mentally and competitively. Let's go back to the offensive line because that group continues to be one of the most fluid and unpredictable units in camp. This isn't just about finding 5 starters. It's about building a cohesive group that can function as a unit, that knows each other's tendencies, can pick up stunts, and stay on the same page in pressure situations. The problem right now? That chemistry is still missing. Part of that is due to injuries. Part of it is due to the experimentation. But part of it, frankly, is just a lack of anyone seizing the moment. Ben Johnson and Dan Rosar want answers. They want clarity. But with constant rotation, especially on the edges, it's been tough to lock into anything long-term. The reps on Friday will be critical, especially with Theo Benedict suddenly pushing his way into serious contention. Every snap against Buffalo's front, and remember, that front is no joke, becomes a mini audition. And if you're someone like Braxton Jones, who is expected to hold down that job, you can't afford to have an off day. Not anymore. Benedict's presence has changed the stakes. The margin for error is shrinking. Now, if we shift over to the skill positions again, it's impossible to ignore the growing buzz around Rome Odunze. This isn't just rookie hype. There's something real building between him and Caleb Williams. The chemistry, the trust, the timing, it's all starting to click. Caleb looks for him early and often, and that matters. When you think about the great QBWR duos, it's always rooted in trust, being where you're supposed to be, making the tough catches, executing the little things. Odunze is checking those boxes already, and that's part of what's made DJ Moore's relative silence in camp stand out even more. He's still the top guy, no doubt, but it's clear this offense might end up being a little more balanced than expected, especially if Odunze keeps trending the way he is. And that leads us into something deeper, the evolution of the offensive identity. This isn't going to be a one-dimensional, throw-it-deep-in-pray system. There's a clear emphasis on versatility, on moving guys around, on creating mismatches. You see that with how they're using Zaccheaus in the slot and even out of the backfield. You see it with the number of tight ends involved. Carlson Loveland and Luther Burden getting targets in the red zone. It's becoming clear that this coaching staff wants to use all its toys. And that's good news for a young quarterback. Spread the ball around. Keep the defense guessing. Avoid falling into predictability, something that plagued this offense in past seasons. But offensive creativity only goes as far as the protection allows it to. And that brings us back to the interior offensive line, another group that's been shuffled a lot in camp. While the tackles have drawn the headlines, the guards and centers have had their own battles brewing. It's been physical. It's been chippy at times. And it needs to be, because this is the core of what's going to protect Caleb Williams when the real bullets start flying in September. If the middle caves in, none of the skill position talent will matter. Defensively, you have to keep your eyes on the pass rush. And the question remains, where is the consistent pressure going to come from? This was a group that struggled mightily to get to the quarterback last season. And while there's optimism around some of the younger guys, the Bears still need someone, or multiple guys, to take that next step. There's been flashes in practice, a few strong reps here and there, but not a lot of sustained dominance. Not a lot of reps where you're thinking, okay, that guy just wrecked the play. And against a quarterback like Josh Allen, you need someone who can win fast. Someone who can collapse the pocket before he escapes and turns it into a backyard scramble drill. One name that's been quietly steady is Montez Sweat. He's not making every highlight reel, but he's doing the dirty work, setting the edge, playing with leverage, creating space for others. But he can't do it alone. That's where someone like Dominique Robinson or Zach Pickens needs to emerge. The tools are there. The flashes are there. Now it's about stringing it all together. And this week is a perfect opportunity to do that against a very well-coached offensive line in Buffalo. These are the reps that simulate real game speed. Win them here, and the confidence carries over. Inside linebacker is another spot with storylines bubbling under the surface. TJ Tmain and Sue are both physical, downhill guys. But who's going to take command of the communication side? Who's making the pre-snap checks? Who's adjusting the front? Those are the subtle things that separate starters from backups. It's not just about who can hit the hardest. It's about who knows what's coming and gets everyone in the right position. Ruben Hippolyte has been an interesting name to watch. Had a decent preseason opener and seems to have a nose for the ball. But now comes the tougher test. Can he diagnose fast enough when Josh Allen starts motioning, shifting, and throwing the kitchen sink at him pre-snap? In an unexpected twist that has sent shockwaves through the NFL rumor mill, whispers are circulating that Aaron Donald, widely regarded as one of the most dominant defensive players of his generation, may have inked a deal with the Chicago Bears, a franchise long searching for defensive identity. While official confirmation remains elusive, insiders hint that the move could redefine the Bears' defensive strategy entirely, promising a level of disruption to opposing quarterbacks never before seen in Soldier Field. Sources close to team management suggest that Donald's presence might not only intimidate rival offenses, but could also inspire a cultural shift in Chicago's locker room, where young talents may finally find a mentor capable of reshaping their approach to the game. Pundits are already speculating that the Bears' defensive coordinator is planning to build schemes around Donald's unprecedented ability to penetrate offensive lines, effectively turning him into a one-man nightmare for QBs across the NFC North. The potential ramifications extend beyond mere statistics. The mere rumor of his signing has caused waves on social media, with fans debating endlessly whether Chicago can finally contend with elite quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes or Justin Fields' own development against stiff competition. Analysts caution, however, that until official confirmation surfaces, these scenarios remain tantalizingly speculative, yet undeniably exciting for the franchise's hopeful supporters. Rumors suggest that Donald's arrival could signal a seismic shift in the Bears' approach to defensive recruiting, with the organization potentially leveraging his presence to attract complementary talent who can thrive alongside a generational player. Industry insiders indicate that this strategy might involve targeting young, agile linebackers and edge rushers capable of maximizing the chaos Donald is expected to unleash on opposing backfields. Conversations among scouts point to an emphasis on speed and versatility, with the understanding that Donald's ability to collapse pockets could turn mediocre pass rushers into seemingly elite threats. Social media chatter has exploded with speculative analysis, including projections of double-digit sack seasons and matchups in which opposing offensive lines may struggle to find answers against a single disruptive force. Betting markets are reportedly responding to these rumors with fluctuating odds, reflecting uncertainty and growing anticipation among fans and pundits alike. Critics, however, caution that relying heavily on one superstar can carry risks, including potential injuries or strategic adjustments by opponents. Nevertheless, the persistent buzz suggests that Chicago might be on the verge of a defensive renaissance, where Donald's mere presence alters game plans and psychological dynamics, making him an almost mythical figure in speculative NFL discourse. Beyond the tactical implications, the rumor of Donald's signing has also sparked speculation about broader franchise ambitions, with insiders suggesting that Chicago may be signaling its intent to challenge not only divisional rivals, but also playoff contenders league-wide. Analysts point out that integrating a player of Donald's caliber requires careful balancing of salary cap concerns, roster depth, and coaching philosophies, all of which the Bears may be preparing to navigate in secret. Fan forums are rife with hypothetical scenarios in which Donald's arrival directly contributes to dramatic wins, game-changing turnovers, and the eventual reshaping of the NFC landscape. Some speculate that the team's marketing department is quietly preparing a narrative centered on defensive dominance, with Donald as the linchpin, to capitalize on the excitement surrounding his rumored acquisition. Coaches from other franchises reportedly view this development with a mix of awe and apprehension, already brainstorming potential counter-strategies to minimize Donald's impact. Rumors even hint at possible changes in practice regimens and off-season conditioning, designed to ensure that Donald's integration into the Bears' system maximizes his disruptive potential while minimizing fatigue or injury risk. While these narratives remain unconfirmed, the swirling speculation alone has transformed Chicago's off-season chatter into a theater of what-ifs, capturing the imagination of fans and pundits alike in a way few unconfirmed stories ever achieve. Speculation continues to intensify around how Donald's rumored move could redefine rivalries within the NFC North, where divisional opponents like the Packers, Vikings, and Lions may face newfound defensive nightmares. Analysts propose that even the most prolific quarterbacks in the division could find themselves under unprecedented pressure, altering passing strategies, timing, and offensive line schemes to account for a single, dominant force capable of changing games single-handedly. Industry whispers suggest that Chicago's coaching staff might exploit Donald's versatility by experimenting with exotic blitz packages, stunts, and gap assignments designed to maximize disruption, while conserving his energy for critical moments. Pundits have taken to predicting sack totals, quarterback hurries, and forced fumbles as though each game could be a dramatic stage for Donald's rumored defensive showcase, with social media threads filled with animated debates over potential matchups. Speculative narratives extend beyond numbers, imagining the psychological impact on opposing teams who, aware of his presence, might approach games with heightened anxiety and altered play-calling strategies. Rumors hint that Donald's influence could extend even to mentoring young talent within the Bears' defensive roster, accelerating the development of emerging stars and potentially transforming Chicago into a perennial threat. While confirmation remains elusive, the very possibility of Donald donning Bears colors has electrified fans, ignited debates, and injected a sense of anticipation into a franchise that has long craved headline-grabbing news. Finally, the persistent buzz surrounding Donald's potential signing raises questions about its broader implications on the NFL landscape, including playoff seeding, rivalries, and long-term team-building philosophies. Experts speculate that if verified, the deal could prompt a wave of roster adjustments, from free agent acquisitions to draft day maneuvers, all aimed at supporting the newfound defensive centerpiece. Betting lines, fantasy projections, and analytical models have already begun incorporating hypothetical impacts. With the official word remains pending, the swirling chatter has transformed an unconfirmed signing into a narrative rich with drama, anticipation, and imagination, making every practice, press conference, and off-season transaction feel charged with possibility. If realized, Donald in Chicago could become one of the defining storylines of the NFL season, a rumor-turned cultural moment, forever altering expectations for what a single dominant player can do within a storied franchise desperate for identity, success, and headline-making moments. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Chicago Bears, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.